everybody, Jesse Reed here with Dropout Entertainment. I'm here with Nick Walsh at Famous Underground. How's it going, Nick?
I'm good, Jesse. How you doing, bud?
I'm great. You had a new album come out on June 25th, In My Reflection. Can you tell us a little bit about the album and how everything's going with that so far?
So, In My Reflection, originally we had scheduled 14 songs to come out as a full-length album, and that was going to be around this time last year. Obviously, with what we saw from March of last year with lockdowns and so forth, we kind of had to go back to the drawing board on that one. We didn't want to release a full-length record in the middle of a situation where people's brains weren't really ready for it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So we decided to go back to the drawing board, and what we came up with was, well, why don't we, in the new year, meaning this year, 2021, release an EP. And because, like I said, it was 14 songs, we thought we'd do an EP now, maybe come, late fall, early winter, release another batch from the same record as another EP. Moving forward, as everything slowly opens up and people are starting to find interest again in entertainment and what's out there, other than just binge watching whatever's on Netflix or Amazon Prime, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, no, it's been this has definitely been a pivoting year, or last year anyway was for a lot of artists.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah, you guys came up with new plans for how to release the album.
Yeah.
How else would you say this has kind of affected? Obviously, there's no shows with that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But would you say this pandemic has affected you musically, the stuff you're going to write going forwards, aside from just how you're releasing stuff that is already coming out?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, we've all gone through such a weird, heady thing over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
That, like you say, it actually seems a lot longer than it really has been. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not used to this. We live, especially us, we live in the city. We're hustle and bustle people, right? So yeah, moving forward, I think that, we're going to take some of what we've learned, and no different than, I guess, office workers and stuff who would normally be working in an office. I think they're all gonna, like, the big businesses are gonna take a look at what this is and go, wow, okay, well, we're getting production out of our people and they're working from home. So I think a lot of things are gonna change, and I think it's gonna change for the music industry as well. I mean, now we're seeing so many more opportunities, for example, streaming concerts and so forth. I think you'll see more of that, even though we're going to go back to being at live concerts. We've seen that people don't mind sitting in their homes and watching a concert on the big screen. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely. Yeah. No, things like that have definitely changed forever. There's new things that I don't think are going away anytime soon.
Oh, for sure. But the one thing I do want to say regarding the video that we did, that we released with this.
Placed on a scale, which side will prevail? For the yin, not the yang of this show. What will you decide? It's time that we made up your mind. Decided to smoke, now regret while you choke.
I really didn't want to see another Zoom video. I had enough of the Zoom videos last year. Everybody with the little square boxes, like it's some sort of game show.
Yeah. No, that's for Dark 102, and yeah, you guys got some live stuff going there. Do you want to talk about that music video?
Well, sure. Well, actually, going into it, originally we were supposed to do a streaming show, a live streaming show at the Empire Theatre in Belleville, Ontario. And with the lockdowns that happened here in Ontario, I mean, we were under lockdown virtually from Christmas time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything that we were supposed to do kept getting pushed back, waiting for what was going to happen. And that was what we were originally going to use for some music videos for this, was, kind of go the old school way of like the old Iron Maiden videos or something, where you could have the live video and then intersperse it with, some footage to make the concept of whatever the song is that we were doing sort of fit,
Yeah.
But that just didn't happen. So as I said, I was really hell-bent on not doing a Zoom video. So I sort of went into the archives of our last show that we had performed here in Toronto a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, and I found some multi-cameras that we had been given by fans. It was basically like, I remember at the show, so-and-so saying, oh, can I videotape your show? You put me on the guest list. I'll videotape your show and give you the footage. And I'm like, yeah. And I did that with a few guys, right?
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden I realized, oh my goodness, I got this footage from the live shows, and I'm going to put something together. And I did. So, we were very resourceful in that sense to do this video. And at least, again, it gave us the opportunity to give whoever's watching it the opportunity to see what we do in a live situation, right? The energy level of a live show and so forth. And take it from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys' stuff, like the new album, it is very high energy. It's, I don't know, I love it. It's so much fun. It gets things pumping. Like it was really cool to hear the sound of that.
Right on.
Can we talk about Famous Underground a little bit?
Absolutely.
You've said that this is your passion project. This is music that comes straight from the soul.
Yeah.
Let's dive in. Let's talk about how this started and kind of what you guys are going for.
Well, yeah, when we've been together for like a decade, but in between the beginning of the band to now, the members, we all do lots of different things. I perform with a company called Classic Albums Live, in which I get to perform all over North America, playing in beautiful theaters. Basically, it's like the Modern Symphony, except for we're doing stuff like Zeppelin and Queen and stuff like that, right? So I've been doing that for the last few years, while a couple of the guys in the band, they're in the construction world. We all got to make a living. This is Canada. So it's a big difference between being a U.S. artist and a Canadian artist. We live in a big place with nobody in it. So you know what I mean? Like touring in this country is like, 2 weeks to go from coast to coast. In the United States, you could do 2 weeks in 1 or 2 states because there's just so many more pockets to be able to perform. Anyway, back to the formation of this band. So we started a decade ago. We released our first record worldwide. It was picked up for 2013. We did a bunch of shows, did a little bit of minor touring and stuff with that. And then again, a couple of little things sort of put us in a position where we were on a bit of a hiatus. And then we were regrouping. We released what we coined as the Digital 45 in 2017, which was just a 2-song sort of digital release. We did a cover of Peace Sells, But Who's Buying by Megadeth, mashed up with Bob Marley's Get Up, Stand Up, kind of a unique take on things, as well as an original track, because we'd started working on original music then 5 years ago. And, again, a little bit of space, we planned to do things, we started working on the music again, recording, and then boom, the pandemic hits, and, we're kind of put on hold again. So now, with the new stuff, we finally got the opportunity to release it, and it's just Famous Underground. I can play all sorts of types of music. I've had the opportunity to write and record with others, doing different types of genres, if you will. I've had the opportunity to use my voice on YTV, Nickelodeon, kids shows, and all that stuff, singing intros for shows and stuff like that. But when it comes to Famous Underground, it's like, I come from an old school metal background, but I'm not stuck in that sort of area. I also love modern rock and metal. Like, for the newer stuff, I'm into bands like Stone Sour, Avenged Sevenfold, but yet I'm also, I still go back and listen to the Queensryches, the King Diamonds, the Alice Coopers, Kiss, all that stuff. So I'm across the gamut. So, I don't necessarily go, I want to be like this. I just kind of write riffs on guitar and that's how I put my songs together. It's basically riff oriented. And then melody and lyrically, it kind of comes from the feeling that I'm getting from the music that I'm actually creating. I don't just kind of set out with a concept or an idea or a lyrical idea. Sure, I might come up with a line here and there and go, hey, that's cool, I'd like to put that in a song. But I feel that the music dictates the feeling, and then the feeling dictates the words I want to put across and the melody, Yeah. So that's kind of what Famous Underground is. And for anybody who's never heard it before, it's just like big, fat, mid-tempo, hard rock, heavy metal. you know. So
Awesome. Yeah, no, that you opened up a whole bunch more questions for me just from that.
that's
from that
awesome.
answer there. But no, yeah, and I love it. I love that you were just listing off some of your like influences or some of the people that you're listening to.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that like when I heard the album, yeah, it was just I got a really excited feeling because there was just some of that, you know, classic metal and hard rock sound that I love, but it was so fresh. Like it was taking some of those ideas and feelings but mixing them with a lot more modern concepts.
Well, yeah, that's great. And you know, to me, one of the things that is really, really stand out is where we've come with technology and being able to produce music. So I like to take some of those ideals of the old school sort of traditional arrangements of music and stuff, but give it a nice modern polished sound, you know what I mean? Very contemporary in the production and the sound of it. I didn't want it to sound like an old 83 Wasp record or something like that. Like I want it to be, you know, be able to play it back to back with Volbeat and Metallica and Megadeth and all the modern music coming out today, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Wicked. You mentioned that must be such a cool experience as well. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, you know, it started off, I think I've been singing with the outfit now for about 6 years, and it's something that I didn't really see myself doing in a committed sort of full-time role, but it sort of turned into that because, you know, I grew up with two brothers that were 9 and 10 years my senior. So, you know, as a kid, I listened to groups like Kiss and Queen and Aerosmith, and then graduated, you know, to the Iron Maidens, Dios, Ozzy Osbournes, all that kind of stuff. But my brothers were more into the stuff from the 70s, which is more like the Led Zeppelins, the David Bowies, Queen as well, you know, Pink Floyd, all that kind of stuff. And performing with Classic Albums Live, I'm doing predominantly like the stuff like Led Zeppelin. You know, I take on that role, and it's not a tribute act. Like we're not out there dressed up trying to dupe people in the audience with some sort of glitzy Vegas show. Right. It's literally like the modern symphony. We're all dressed in black. You know, we go out there and we're note for note, cut for cut, which is the actual motto of Classic Albums Live. So, you know, for example, when I do the Queen show, I front the Queen show, I've got, you know, 3 background singers that are dedicated background singers. I've got 3 guitar players that not only play all of the Brian May harmonies note for note, there's no samples going over top or anything like that, or tracks. There's no tracks. This is all live. They sing as well. You know, I've got a keyboard player. When I do the Bowie show, I've got strings and horns, and it's just fantastic. You know, in my position as a metal hard rock frontman, I never saw myself in a situation where I would be on stage with 10 musicians, let alone string sections and horn sections, right?
Yeah.
But my God, is it a phenomenal experience. And as a singer, it's given me the opportunity to develop and redevelop my voice and new techniques and stuff that, again, I never thought I would do. I never thought in a million years I would be singing songs by David Bowie, but once I did it and realized, see, one of the things about Classic Albums Live for me as well is like an actor, you know, let's use Johnny Depp or something, who really throws themselves into the role with the research prior. Well, I do so much research about the album I'm going to be performing, the artist, you know, what was going on when they were recording this and all that stuff. And I really try to take control of the emotion of the singing and the technique that, you know, some may say, wow, he sounds just like it, but I really put my heart and soul into it as well. It's not just singing words and a melody or whatever. I'm really, every little inflection means so much for the Classic Albums Live show that if you get the opportunity to see it, it's pretty cool.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'd seen them coming through Toronto a few times. I haven't been to one, but just after hearing this, I'm definitely gonna check them
Yeah,
out.
like if you like some of that classic rock. I mean, I don't do all the shows, obviously. Like I don't do Pink Floyd and I don't do Beatles and all that. But as a spectator to those shows and a witness to those shows, they're absolutely phenomenal. And I, you know, sometimes when I watch these guys and I'm looking at them going, I do this? You know what I mean? Like tomorrow night I'm on the stage doing Zeppelin while they're doing, you know, Beatles tonight or whatever. And it's that good. This is, wow, this is really cool. It's a mind-boggling experience because it's all about listening. It's all about that. It's not a big rock show with people bouncing on the stage. That's what Famous Underground's for. You know what I mean? Famous Underground's my outlet to be able to be that rock musician that's staring into people's faces off the stage and engaging them, whereas the classic albums live thing is more the oral experience where people sit back and they're tripping out, closing their eyes, and they get to relive the moments the first time they ever heard that record or that song, or you know what I mean? So that's what that's a really great experience for the fans as well as us as musicians.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're mentioning the Famous Underground shows. You mentioned earlier too, Wade, when you're writing, you start doing the music and the lyrics and all of that kind of stuff comes from the feeling of what
The song, the music, yeah.
Yeah. So when you are playing this stuff live, how do you feel that translates to the crowd? Like, do you think that is a direct relation to the way that you write it, and that everything is kind of coming from that feeling from the music as opposed to some kind of pre-constructed thing?
Yes, I do. I really do. And I think that, and I say this in the bio, and I've been saying this for decades, is that, you know, as a fan of music, I can tell when something isn't real or from the heart, or, you know, that saying like you can smell bullshit from a mile away or whatever. It's pretty easy to see what's contrived and preconceived or as what comes naturally from people. And I think, you know, as a fan of music, I can list, you know, I'm not going to list them, but a list of bands that I like where a certain record, quote unquote, jumped the shark, so to speak. You know, that saying like, hey man, they lost it on this one, you know, what were they thinking or whatever. And then they come back with a new record and you're like, that's the band I know and love. And I think that's what it's like for us. Actually pre-pandemic, when we were, before all these songs were fully recorded and we had the opportunity to sort of test them out in a live setting in front of our audience, they got it. And, you know, after the show, when we're at the merch table and we're taking pictures and signing stuff and selling stuff, you know, people were genuinely saying, look, oh my God, your new songs, I totally got it. Like from the stage, the translation from the stage to the audience, I totally know what you're going for. Right on. I can't wait to get the CD or whatever. And that's the feeling that we want to know, you know, because it's one thing to get a record and hear a song over and over again, and you kind of get used to it, and then you know the arrangement, you sing along or stomp along or whatever. But if you've never heard something in your whole life, and the first time you hear it, you actually go, oh my God, I like this, or there's something here, then me as an artist, or we as artists, our band or whatever, we got the point across, you know? They weren't going, oh, what is this? Like, did you just like copycat this or write these songs with this? And oh, we wrote these songs and recorded these songs because this is what we wanted to do. And the bonus is that you like it, you know, you like what we're doing. So that's sort of, like I said, the last translation of these songs that are on In My Reflection when we perform them live for the very first time. It was just a great feeling to hear our fans and the audience members making that statement. So
that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's that is a great answer to that question. You mentioned too, so when you're doing the classic albums, you really get into character. You're really doing a lot of study. When you were first starting to learn to sing for yourself, who were you looking up to at that point? Whose voices were you studying? What were the influences that led to the voice we're hearing today? Yeah,
like when I was a teenager, probably like we'll talk about mid 80s, right? We'll talk about mid 80s when I really started to get into vocal technique after the puberty stage, after the awkward stage where I wasn't like, would you like some fries with that, sir? You know, after that point, because I sang before that, but I had a really high voice, and I could hit whatever. Then I went through that awkward stage where, you know, even my own dad said, oh, I don't know what it's going to be like after, if you're going to be able to sing. And that was a huge fear. Yeah. So, you know, once my voice changed and I was able to sort of harness it again, I was into like Jeff Tate from Queensryche. I was into King Diamond from Merciful Fate and his own band King Diamond. So these were metal vocalists that had huge range. You know, I was into some obscure metal bands that some people don't know about, Crimson Glory, Fates Warning. And again, these were like sort of proggy metal bands where the vocalists were like Bruce Dickinson meets, like, you know what I mean? Like just operatic, all that. So I was into all that. But at the same time, I liked some of the dirty, nasty rock that was coming out of LA at the time. You know, like bands like Wasp, Rat, Dawkins, and you know, out of the New York area, Twisted Sister. So I liked all of these bands, and it sort of washed over me. Like, you know, I liked to have the, like Alice Cooper when I was young, I liked to have that like snide, nasty sort of thing, but at the same time with a vocal technique to be able to, like, you know, scream and use my voice as a weapon at times, and yeah, so it was cross the gamut, man. Like anything from Ozzy and Dio to, you know, like I said, Queensryche to Wasp to I don't know. I just listen to everything. And then I grew up in a household that my dad's from Liverpool, England, so I heard the Beatles every day of my life. So, you know, it just everything.
Awesome. What would you say are some things that influence you now outside of music?
I'll tell you honestly, because of, you know, the years and years that have passed for me being in the music industry and being a songwriter and stuff, I'm much more into telling tales of like, and I'm speaking from a lyrical sense here. I'm much into telling tales of things that, you know, we think about as humans or that we go through as humans every day. And I know it's easy to say, well, then you could tell a tale of boy meets girl, but no, too much time has passed for me to be able to tell those stories. I'm more into, you know, things that influence me to write would be the news, specific movies or program concepts where I'm just like, wow, you know, this is heavy. Like, you know, because most of these things are all dependent on moral dilemma. And that's what I like to write about, is moral dilemmas, duality, conflicts within ourselves, conflicts in our relationships with people in the world. And as I said, I'm influenced in the things that are most prevalent to me, which is obviously things I see in different forms of media. So it could be a series I'm watching on Netflix. It could be the news or the current state of the world, or it could be, you know what I'm saying? Or it could be something I'm going through in a personal relationship, not necessarily a romantic relationship, but a relationship with a friend or a colleague or whatever, and a situation where you need to find some form of resolve. So whether it resolves or not, sometimes I love it when there's no Hollywood ending. Sometimes I like to leave you with the question so that you can make a decision as to where that tale or story is going to lead.
Nice. Yeah. We're not always getting the Disney ending from you then.
Well, that's it. You know, I always like to sort of propose a question and make people go, okay, I'm going to think about that. Or how does this song or this lyric pertain to my life? I like to leave it sort of open-ended in that respect, so that it's not specifically, oh, this song is about blah, 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 right? We can generalize what the song is about in a tale, but how does it pertain to the listener's life? How are they going to interpret it, right? So.
Definitely. Yeah, no, that's don't obviously you're not going to give us the like exact answer after that answer.
Well,
Do
that's
you want
it.
to talk about the meaning behind the Dark One of Two, and kind of what inspired that one for you?
Okay, well, the Dark One of Two is that age-old tale of, you know, the devil sitting on one shoulder and the angel sitting on the other. Lyrically speaking, you know, I wanted to have a little bit of fun with that, because the narrative is predominantly from the devil on your shoulder, which is why it's called the Dark One of Two. It's like the dark side is sort of, you know, Luke, I am your father. It's like, you know, it's calling you, especially when, you know, in society, the things that we deem as no-nos are usually the most fun. You know what I mean? So when we find ourselves in a position, like, let me just throw this one out there. Should I have this last drink or should I just call it a night?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm gonna do the shot with my buddies or whatever. It can be anything you want, but we've all been in that situation where we have to make that decision, and that decision can be consequential. You know what I mean? It could be the thing that ends a relationship. It could be the things that takes you down a road that you shouldn't be on, you know? So
Yeah.
that's where that sort of, it's just that moral dilemma of, you have a conscience, and unfortunately it's made up of things talking to you, and it's that devil and angel on your shoulder. So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a great concept. And you've seen the a lot of the industry, I'm sure.
Yes.
At this point. You've got a digital release, which we'll touch on in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you talk about just some of the ways that the music industry has changed within the last 20 years?
Sure. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, you know, the birth and death of the CD and the rebirth of vinyl and all that stuff, it's all because the internet is not a tangible thing anymore. Like when I was a kid growing up and my favorite band's record was coming out, I literally had to go get my favorite band's record. I had to get on the subway here in Toronto, go downtown to the Record Peddler or Sunrise Records or wherever the hell I was going, and, you know, see it on a shelf, on a rack, or sift through the bin to get it. And sometimes we had to line up because, you know, the release was coming out and we were waiting for the store to open, and there would be a lineup of people dying to get those records. And what the internet has done to us now is everything is so immediate that it's easy to dismiss things as well, as opposed to really fall in love with stuff. When we used to go get our records, Jesse, we'd literally like make a day out of it, man. Like, we'd go downtown, we'd line up, we'd go buy our record, we'd go, you know, to a pizza parlor or a sub shop, get a sandwich or a pizza slice, go to the arcade, and then when we got back on the subway to come home, we'd open that record or tape or CD, and we'd be sifting through the liner notes, learning everything, who was on that record, who produced it, all that stuff. Then we'd get back home, you know, get into my parents' basement or whatever, and crank it up and listen to it over and over and over again for, you know, 2 days till we knew it inside and out. Now I can go and look at anything I want and not really pay for it. You know, I got a subscription to Spotify. It cost me $15 a month, as opposed to going and buying a record that cost me $15, you know?
Yeah.
So payments for artists have gone down. Record sales mean nothing. It's all about live shows and merch now. It's like, if you've got a whiskey or a coffee, then you're making it, you know what I mean? And it has nothing to do with music anymore. This is a conversation that you and I could sit here for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when Napster first came out as a legal app, and I was discovering my old band. I was discovering Slik Toxik live bootlegs at concerts, and I thought, wow, this is crazy. this is going to be the death of the industry if I can just find any old thing like that on here. And sure enough, it was. You know, I think it's kind of like the industry looked at that type of file sharing as though it was not going to become popular. You know, they didn't jump on it soon enough. That's kind of where my brain goes with it.
No, I agree with you. I think if people would have taken that whole situation more seriously from the start, we would probably live in a different musical world right now.
I believe that. I totally believe that. And you know, I wasn't big on the whole Lars going after Napster thing because things were just changing. And again, you know, you could say pick your battles or whatever, but you know, there's Lars going after Napster, but then there was BearShare and LimeWire and all these other things that people were getting their music and videos from anyway. So it wasn't all Napster, if you know what I'm trying to say. That's just like, let's go after this one company that's specifically doing this when there's literally dozens out there that anybody could use, you know? So
and it's turned into something. I guess that's part of it too, right? Like this whole streaming situation is good for the industry, depending on which part of the industry you're in, right? For artists, 95% of artists, terrible. 5% of artists, amazing. The people, you know, the execs work with those artists, incredible. People like Spotify, they're killing it. But people, the average artist it's killing them.
Yeah, see, you're absolutely right. You know, let's not sugarcoat it for people thinking, oh, it's great, you could become a YouTube star. But unfortunately, you know, that's where we are now. It's not like it used to be where, you know, you had to fight as an artist or a band to the next level was, I mean, the big thing was to get a record deal. I mean, that was the big thing. My whole life, everybody, a record deal. I got a record deal. I want a record deal, blah, blah, blah. That's what it was. There is no record deal anymore. You know, sure, an artist can get signed to whatever that means, that you know, they're gonna get some investment put behind them and they'll be in the forefront because, let's say, the label has clout with all of these big companies like you say Spotify or Apple Music or whomever. So they're gonna get the top tier of the promotion and get on the playlists and all that kind of stuff. And for the indie artists, we're all fighting our way through, you know, this whole thing of trying to get on a playlist or trying to, there's a lot of trying. And there's a lot of trial and error too, like which direction, it's created a lot of confusion for indie artists as to what direction, or if you've got a little bit of budget, where do you spend it? You know, it's just such a different time. And yeah, I could go on about it. I don't even know where to keep going on about it.
Yeah,
right?
Sorry, no, that's good. We're this isn't the happiest topics anyway, so I'm gonna move on from it. But yeah, you got some exciting stuff coming out too, aside for just this for In My Reflection.
Yes.
You've got a digital release from the Slik Toxik album coming out. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, this is something that we've thought about for years, or I've thought about for years specifically, is that, you know, after the demise of EMI in Canada here and Universal Music sort of absorbing their catalog, I didn't know, you know, which way to go with this. I didn't know whether I should be looking into trying to get the masters back for release or what, because it wasn't available through all of the current means of where we get our music, you know, from the iTunes to the Spotifys to the Apple Musics to the Amazons, whatever. So, you know, I just reached out to some friends of mine, acquaintances from the industry, and got a few names and some email addresses and started a dialogue with Universal. And as it turns out, they didn't even know that it wasn't even out there yet.
Yeah.
Because it's what would be considered, I guess, archival, because it wasn't initially a Universal Music product. You know, it was an EMI, it was an inherited product from EMI. So as it turns out, yes, they were down with it. They're going to be making Lore, Slik Toxik. You know, we were kind of hearkened to be like, I guess, a GNR of Canada or something like that, because in our band we had a few bad boys and there were some incidents that surrounded the band that I'm sure you could find out about on the internet, you know, that I don't need to speak about again. But so yeah, there was some you know, there's people that really would like to finally get this. I mean, some people have found the CD on eBay for $80, you know, stuff like that. So when it's finally out there for people to listen to, I'm sure it'll only help myself and any of the other ex-members of the band and the projects they're working on, as well as, hey man, this is our history. It would be nice for it to be out there. So really looking forward to that this year too.
Awesome. So yeah, you've got a big year ahead of you, considering we're still in a pandemic right now. Lots of music coming from you.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's totally true. And I again, I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with other artists. So there's other little things that will be popping up with my voice and name on it in the next little while. So
nice.
Yeah, just want to stay active, because at the end of the day, Jesse, you had mentioned it a few minutes ago about how, you know, there's a lot of musicians and artists that are out there doing it because that's what they love to do. Look, I'm 50 years old now, okay? My ideas of hanging out with Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion, they were gone a long time ago. You know what I'm trying to say? Things have changed, Hef has moved on, my priorities and my responsibilities have changed. So I'm still in it for the music, man. You know, I'm still doing this because this is what I love to do. This is what I've been born and bred to do. And nobody can take that out of me. Unfortunately, I've gone through ups and downs where I've said, like, something, get this out of me. It's kind of like the old Looney Tunes cartoon where the gambling bug bites the cat and then he's a bet. He's got a bet. I've been bitten by the music bug, and it's a disease that there's no cure for. So here I am, man.
Not going away anytime soon. Okay, well, beautiful. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on and like sharing all this with us. This is incredible. Before we go, you got any last words for anybody watching here?
No, I just hope you'll check out the new stuff, Famous Underground in My Reflection, and I hope you dig it. If you're a fan of like big, hard, mid-tempo, heavy metal, hard rock, go give it a listen. Maybe a thumbs up.
Awesome. Thanks so much.